start to put tension on my string drawback. I was like, okay, I'm gonna switch.
It's him. You can look at the horns when he's dead. I'm in the zone. Let the arrow go. Just perfect.
When they lose their front doors, you start. Yeah, that's how you know they're smoking.
Went about 5-10 more yards. We probably went 20 yards a little bit, then we tried to get back up. I saw him pull up.
We rushed 14 rods that night. We got like 166 and something like that, and then the next day we came up to 163 even.
You're listening to the White Cat Outdoors podcast, bringing you to the table where we talk about the outdoors.
Yo. What's up, guys? Episode 89 of the White Cat Outdoors podcast, coming into your ear holes from Nick and Tom and White.
You got to give a shout out to the Whitetail Legacy podcast. You can't say ear hole.
I was gonna.
Okay.
Jesus.
I looked, I was like, you can't not shout out Whitetail Legacy podcast if you're going to do
Is that their thing?
That's 100% their thing.
Yeah, that's their thing. We were on their podcast, so that's why I was having some fun with it.
Yeah. So
This was a while ago we were on their podcast.
it was.
It's a good episode.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They haven't been on ours yet. We
Yeah.
should change that up.
Yeah, we
get
should.
a hold of them.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, yeah, like Frank said, I'm in the studio. Tom's in the studio. Gang's all here. Episode 89, we're going to be breaking down, kind of the last work weekend we have planned for before hunting season, before the big kickoff of the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. If you're listening to this podcast, it's probably because you like to deer hunt. And some of you guys, you lucky ducks up in the Dakotas and some other places are already hunting. But if you're like the rest of the country and you got to wait till October 1st, it's crunch time.
Yeah.
Things got to get done, and we've got one work weekend left coming up. By the time you're listening to this, we're going to be wrapping it up.
Mm-hmm. But then we'll just let the woods cool off until it's time to go start slaying.
Until we go back to heat it up.
Yeah. And it will heat up faster than a junkie spoon.
Yeah. Real quick.
Yeah.
So we're just going to break down, what we're planning on doing to wrap up, everything before we get ready to hunt and go from there. Because then, really soon, Deer Camp Series is going to start, and it's going to be just kill episode after kill episode.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can keep our streak like we did last year.
I was very impressed last year.
I was
that
too.
We were
Every
able,
week.
Yeah.
Maybe Nick could actually help out during bow season this year.
No, during bow season, maybe.
Yeah. It's not likely, Tom.
Could get ugly. Speaking of bow season, just before we jump into this, I decided to try a new bow holder this year. So it's actually a small company up in the Catskills Mountains, and it's called the Quick Draw Bow Holder. Mm-hmm. And basically what it is it's a little bracket that you mount before your stabilizer on your bow, and then there's a receiver, like it's like an L shape.
Okay.
So there's like a long, like probably 2-inch, like downward piece of metal, and then there's a receiver that you bolt to your stand, and it just drops down in that receiver, the old quick draw. So basically put your bow on your side.
You just got to lift it.
You just lift it straight up. It's not like those third hand bow holders where you have to like tilt it back and out. And like with those, you can knock those out potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where this is like it's all downward. You can't really knock it out of the I don't even know what to call it, the holder, I guess. So
the quick draw.
Yeah, it's just a quick draw, John Wayne style. Mm-hmm. So it was only $29, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give it a try. I think it would be a really nice little bow holder to mount right to the side of my stand and forget about it. So that was one little thing. I can't say whether it's gonna be good or bad because I haven't tried it yet. Just ordered it this morning, so I'm
sure you'll talk about it after you shoot a monster buck.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You couldn't have done it without it.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll do it. Big thank you to the Quick Draw Bow Holder. Then I'll have to make an intro for that video of me just pulling my bow out as fast as I can.
That's a good idea.
Just John Wayne style all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll start holstering my bow on my hip.
I'd like that idea even better.
Yeah, if you could, instead of attaching the bracket to your stand, attach it to a belt loop.
Yeah.
There you go.
Old Nicky Knox style.
Nicky Knox.
So I guess we can jump into what
now
we're
that the house is all swept.
Yeah, everything, good house cleaning is done. So, Tom, you've been kind of the one manning the bus if you will, on our most recent project up in the headquarters with, our food plots. We talked last week about how our food plots just didn't turn out quite the way we wanted them to, and we talked
Well, it was
about
bullshit with the weather.
yeah,
so.
and we blame the weather. I'm not going to blame myself, that's for sure.
That'll
of course
never
not.
happen.
And last week we talked a lot about natural food sources, but
The apples up there, unreal.
Yeah,
wait till you see. I know you haven't come up and worked a lot this summer, so you haven't been able to see the apples. They're unreal.
that granddaddy tree is absolutely loaded.
It's gonna split in half sooner or later.
Yeah.
It's got that many apples.
Yeah.
But anyways, Tom decided we wanted to one last try with the old food plots. We're going to do a couple fall food plots, and I'll let Tom take it from there.
Well, before I jump into that, I just wanted to reiterate something. And as Nick said, this is our final work weekend. Button up everything, before deer season, and our season starts in a month. So we like to give 1 month for the woods to kind of settle down, because we've been up there a lot, mowing, tree stands, food plots, cutting trails, all kinds of good stuff. So we like I said, at least a month before the season where we just stay out and let it return to normal, get all of our scent out of there before we go in there and hammer it hard. But that being said, final work weekend coming up, and we're putting in fall food plots. We're hanging stands and checking safety straps on our existing stands.
Making sure shooting lanes are all cleared out.
Yeah.
And probably a final camera check before season.
Maybe drink a cold beer if we're good.
If we're good.
If we're good. But fall food plots, these aren't, stands that are going to be hot, opening day of gun season or opening day of rifle season.
What are you saying right now, Tom?
Opening day of bow season.
How many drinks have you had?
0.
He was not good today.
These are our late season, rut and later food plots. So we picked up this bag, Whitetail Institute. It's a winter mix. It's got kale, brassica, and radishes. And they say you're supposed to plant, like in our area of the country, from like August 15th to September 15th is like the window they give you. So we're going to be planting September 2nd. And you want it, like they say, like 8 week. You want to get it in the ground 8 weeks before the anticipated first frost. And very rarely do we get a frost prior to November. It's usually
last week of October. Sometimes we'll get it.
So we're right at that 8 week mark. I think it's going to be super hot, because once you get that frost, all the sugar rushes to those broadleaves in the brassica and the kale, makes it super sweet. Deer go bananas over it. But they say you got to plant it 8 weeks before that frost, because it needs time to establish itself, or the frost will kill it. So you have a fine window of when to plant, when's too early, when's too late. And I think on a couple of our food plots, unfortunately, we got a little too excited with a very dry May and a dry beginning of June. Got a little antsy, maybe planted a little too early. Had a super ass wet July, and that kind of hosed us. But anyway, they turned out all right. It's better than not having food plots, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited about these second two. And the one we're setting up for, we're putting in a rifle stand, and it's a stand where you can shoot the entire field.
Yeah, that's going to be
great. But I'm looking at this field, and I'm kind of pissed because the corn didn't turn out real well. And I'm like, well, I still want this stand to be a hot spot. So where we were supposed to have the second half of our cornfield, mowed that and sprayed it, and that's going to be a winter mix food plot. And then down in front of the beans is going to be another winter mix food plot. And I think it's going to work out real well, because they're kind of the ones out in the middle of the field. So deer are going to have to cross the open to get to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to call it open, though, with how high that field's overgrown with goldenrods.
No, you can't see it from the road. But
yeah, so open's kind of, I would say, is a wrong term, I guess, because it's the deer are going to be able to feel safe coming across the field. It's
absolutely,
overgrown.
but it's not too thick to the point where you can't shoot.
Yeah, you get up high enough, you can shoot into it easy.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. I think it's going to work out well. Check the weather. Weather's looking good. And then the second one is going to be more of like a rut bow stand. That one, it's a much smaller food plot, right in front of one of our archery stands on the edge of the field, where basically if they come into that food plot, you can shoot them with a bow. Mm-hmm. So it's, you're kind of right in the middle. It's 30 yards to one edge, 30 yards to the other edge, 30 yards across. So it's going to be nice. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the other two food plots that kind of just got overgrown with like weeds, we just sprayed last night. So we already could see like the clover, I think, because clover isn't going to get killed by the Roundup. That's more for grasses and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we're hoping by spraying it allows the natural clover in the field anyway to come
back.
Yeah. Because you can already see it once we cut it, that it was already there. It just needed that sunlight. And we're hoping that the Roundup will give it time to flourish.
Yeah.
So just trying to rejuvenate some food plots, and I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to be juicy on food plots for sure.
Yeah. But one of the big thing is tree stand safety.
Yeah, you definitely can't stress that one enough. That's big.
That's something we make sure we do every year. Prior to the season, every tree stand gets climbed.
I think it's clomb.
Every stand gets clomb.
Clum.
Straps are checked. New straps are put on when needed. Pegs that like screw-in pegs get checked. We've had, not me, but my dad had a tree stand where the pegs were in the tree so long that they actually grew into the tree. Like, how they're shaped like a Z?
Yeah.
Well, all that was sticking out was the bottom part. Like the rest, the up and the over was in the tree. Well, he stepped and it snapped off and he fell out on his way down. So we always make a point to replace pegs.
Back them out a little bit. That was another thing I wanted to touch on with that. Not only are you saving yourself from falling out of a tree, but you're also protecting the tree itself when you're loosening straps. And when you check the stands, don't just say, okay, it's good and sturdy. Loosen the strap up and then like retighten it a little bit just so you're not choking that tree out, because like you said with the pegs, everyone has seen a stand that sat in a tree for too long and it's completely grown into the tree.
Yeah, the one stand, one of my favorite stands, was on the property before we ever even hunted it, and it's been long gone, grown into it. Like there's actually no strap on it now, but
it ain't
it's
going
so
anywhere.
Far into the tree where you just don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah.
The only unfortunate thing with that is I know exactly what stand you're talking about. And like up where you sit, there's that V bracket that kind of bites the tree and grips in.
Yeah.
That's what grew into the tree. Well, now, the tree's growing, that's raising, and now the ladder's like 3 inches off above the ground. So it kind of sways a little bit.
Well, when you climb that stand, you like kind of like the ladder kind of like has like a backwards arc to it's like the ladder's like you kind of almost climbing like
backward, upside
yeah, like
down.
it's not like a safe angle, like, and then you climb back and then you work back towards the tree. It's kind
Hell
of
of a spot though.
Oh yeah, great little spot to be in.
Yeah, so you definitely want to make sure you're checking your straps and loosening them up and all that stuff before the season every year, just to keep your trees safe and to keep yourself safe so you're not falling out.
And what we like to do while we're checking tree stands is trim lanes.
Yeah, because they grow in every year.
Yeah, every year they're going to grow in. And if you trim them, a month prior to the season.
Before you get too involved into trimming them, let's talk about what we're bringing to do all your trimming. Different tools you can use before we get in.
Pole saw.
Yeah. So you got your pole saw. We actually, this year, I have a battery-powered pole saw. So
What fun
by
is that?
DeWalt.
Yep.
I'm pretty
gonna be
excited
fun.
about it.
It's nice.
Yeah, I like doing the manual one, just wrecking your shoulders.
Yeah, and then the
All right,
blade
All right, well, you
gets
can use
stuck in
that
the
one.
tree.
We'll use the DeWalt.
That's the best.
But I still think there's certain there's limitations to the battery one for sure, and we'll still have our the manual one.
That one never runs out of batteries.
No,
Never.
it doesn't.
Never runs out of fuel.
No, and then it also has that little pruning. I don't know what shear.
The little lopper thing.
Yeah, the little lopper on the other side, that's a really handy tool.
Yeah,
for,
that is.
Yeah, but not when you have an electric one. Instead of snipping it, you can just zip right through it.
Yeah, I still like having like a chainsaw. Sometimes you gotta cut something a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Some pruning shears are nice. I even keep pruning shears in my backpack.
Pruning shears are nice for like
The walk-in.
the walk-in, Nick actually trimmed this one trail real nice for us earlier in the year.
It's gonna need it again.
Yeah, it probably will. But when you're walking your trail, you get prickers that grow over and hang over the lane, so it's nice to just snip them real quick.
Mm-hmm. That way you got a nice quiet walk-in.
Yeah.
That's actually a big thing on scent control too, because if you're walking down the trail and brushing up against pricker bushes or overhanging weeds, limbs, and everything, you're leaving your scent on everything that you touch. So we like to have a nice clean walk into our stands. Only scent you're going to be leaving is on the ground from your boots, not on every overhanging limb.
Everything right at the deer's nose height.
Yeah.
And of course, this is all just like our presets. Your mobile stands, you can't really prep like that. But
your mobile sets, you can walk in with a pair of snippers in your hand, and
Yeah.
if there's a floral rose branch hanging out, give it a quick snip, walk on through like no big deal.
yeah, it's kind of a pro tip.
Yeah.
Most
I
folks-
actually learned that from my Uncle Frank.
Yeah, he always has those things in his pocket, like when he's trapping, no matter what he's doing.
That's where he taught me. We were beaver trapping.
Always.
And I tell you what, as much as I love fighting with them freaking thorns and shit, it is nice to keep a pair of snips handy. And
you should have brought this up in the tips and tricks podcast.
we can't spill all our tips and tricks in one podcast.
Yeah, you got to keep them coming back.
As Frank said, this is maybe the advanced
Yeah.
one. So that's another. Maybe we should just starting now through hunting season, we'll just do like a pro tip of the week.
Pro tip of the week.
And I
Sounds
think
good.
that one will be perfect right there. Is keep pruning shears in your pocket, for your walk in.
Yeah.
Because exactly, that's a big thing. Is especially with a stand on your back, trying to get through a bunch of
It's
shit.
loud.
It's loud. It's a pain in the ass when it grabs a hold of your stand or whatever. So just snipping it on your way through, you're not getting scent everywhere. You're not sweating from doing an acrobat show to get through brush. And
I will tell you though, me getting caught up in a pricker bush got Frank a buck one time.
It did.
And I'll tell you the story.
I was gonna say I need to hear this story because I'm not sure I'm familiar.
So we have this stand up at Clymer, right at the head of the swamp. I call it the green platform, probably because it's a green platform stand.
Wow.
Yeah,
Got really creative with your tree stand names.
really, really a good spot. Well, it was called, I believe it was called Mascaries, but that guy, I've never even met the guy. He's the one that put the stand in. So I figured, why call it this guy's name that I've never even met? He doesn't even hunt here. So I figured,
Change it up.
give it a new name. New owners, new name, green platform's where we're at. That's where Frank was at. And I decided I was going to hunt the far end of that same swamp, which is probably 250 yards. Mm-hmm. So we're good and far apart. I'm sitting there, and I'm not really feeling the whole morning sit. There's like a foot of snow on the ground, and there wasn't
out late?
There wasn't a stand there, so I was just sitting on a log. It got cold, and I'm like, I'm gonna go take a walk. So I loop around back to the other swamp on the property, and I'm walking along the edge of this swamp, and I get tangled up in this damn pricker bush. And I have this like orange vest that's like, I don't even know what,
felt.
probably from like the 70s.
It's
like,
a sweet vest.
yeah, it's like, it's felt. gets caught on absolutely everything.
It's basically just like a cape. It doesn't like attach to you. It just goes over your head and it just flaps in the wind.
Yeah.
And in the front.
Yeah, it's like a dual cape. Pretty sweet deal. So I get caught up in this bush, and I'm not having a good time. I'm mother effing this thing, spinning around in circles, making a whole bunch of noise, and I kick this deer up. And finally get out of the thicket and pull up on this deer, and he's hauling ass through the woods. I'm like, I ain't even going to risk trying to shoot at a running deer. I'm like, there's no way. And I'm like, actually, he's kind of heading towards Frank. So I go to pull out my walkie-talkie. We were big into walkie-talkies at this point. And I was going to tell Frank, hey, a buck's coming your way.
You realized that was illegal, so you didn't do it.
Well, this is a fictional podcast.
I was going to stop you too.
So I decide, are you allowed to use cell phones?
No, you can't use anything to aid.
And this is like what you're doing in your mind. You're saying,
Are you allowed to yell? Hey, Frank, coming to you. I decide I'm going to yell, hey, Frank, coming to you. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm like 500 yards from Frank. He's never going to hear me.
there's no service.
There's no service.
You know that's illegal to use the walkie-talkie, so you just don't do any of it, huh?
No, I didn't do anything because I realized, you know what, this deer is like probably 400 or 500 yards away from Frank. It can go in any direction. What are the odds of it staying in a straight line for like 400 or 500 yards? Like, Frank's never going to see this deer.
And he ran right along the edge of the swamp too, so he could have just dipped.
Yeah,
right
he could have dipped
swamp.
right back into the swamp. And to get to Frank, he had to run along the edge of a swamp, cross an open field, back into the woods, and then to Frank. I'm like, there's no way. So anyway, I keep walking, and it wasn't like a minute later, I hear boom. I'm like, holy shit. And so I call Frank because I had cell phone service at this point, and I'm like, hey, did you shoot? And I remember it clear as day. He's like, no, I didn't shoot. I'm like, oh, that shot sounded really close. He's like, yeah, almost like it was right out of my stand. I'm like, you did shoot? He's like, yeah, I just shot a buck. I'm like, sweet, on my way over. So I walk over, and wouldn't you know it, it's the buck that I just kicked up. And I'm like, you're not going to believe this, Frank, but I just kicked this deer up like way over there. And we actually walked the tracks back, and yeah, it crossed the open field, ran along the swamp, and then to Frank.
It was just his day to die.
Yeah. So getting tangled up in that pricker bush was a good thing that day.
So maybe don't carry your pruning shears. Is that what we're taking from this?
It depends. It's a situational
That would
thing.
depend on the tribe.
Exactly.
I don't know where I was going.
We started with talking about the tools you use to trim out stands, because before you got too involved in what you're doing with trimming stands, we went down that rabbit hole, or deer trail, if you will.
Yeah.
So back to you, trimming out stands.
Yeah, we like to do it about a month beforehand. That way, if you accidentally over trim something, it's got time to grow back a little bit. Deer will notice, if you cut a branch down. Mm-hmm. You got to give them time to get used to it.
Kind of like taking a picture frame off the wall in your house.
Yeah.
You'll notice.
Yeah, you'll notice. And then if no one puts it back up for a month, you're like,
I guess this is the new normal.
Guess that's how we're doing this now. Mm-hmm. You got to get used to it. So, yeah, that's why we like to do it about a month beforehand. Gives it time to grow back. Like I said, you're gonna put a lot of scent in the area, cutting lanes. You're gonna be running a saw. Mm-hmm. You're gonna be climbing up trees. So it's gonna need some time. You definitely don't want to be doing it the day before.
Yeah, and you also don't want to do it too early, because you end up,
stuff growing back.
Well, stuff growing back, and look how bushy the woods is in June versus even now. Like, it's not like fall hasn't hit, but it's not nearly as green as it was back in June, and it's gonna even get worse. So, like, I think if you trim too early, you end up opening too much open.
Yeah, because you need some of the branches that you're, like you said, in June when it's fully foliated, you cut a lot of branches out that you could use for cover that wouldn't be in your way once the leaves are gone.
In spots to where I can draw behind them. That's especially like, I had a buck that I killed like inside 10 yards, and the only reason I was able to draw on him is because I had one pine tree branch underneath me where it was a total dead zone. I couldn't see him, so I know he can't see me. I was able to draw back there, and as soon as he got past it, I mean, otherwise, I mean, the stand, Tom knows the stand I'm talking about. I was only, I think you can touch where you're standing from the ground almost.
It's probably 8 feet.
If that, yeah, it's a very short stand, and for a deer to be, 10 yards,
Yeah.
they're pretty much looking at you.
Yeah.
So the only way I was able to shoot was having that branch. So
Yeah, so you definitely want to be careful you don't take too much out when you got to pick and choose where you want your shooting lanes and don't make them a freaking highway.
Strategically place. Yeah.
Yeah, you if you have your stand in a good spot, you'll kind of know, okay, this is where the deer are coming from. I'd kind of like a shot opportunity here, kind of like one here. You don't need a 6-yard window that's clear. You need, a couple feet.
Yeah. Enough for the deer to stand in.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of times you can kind of tell, like if you're on a deer trail, you can see, terrain features, or if there's like maybe a branch that's, like they use as a licking branch or a scrape or something. You don't have to widen everything out. Like if there's a destination somewhere, like there's a reason you put that stand there, I hope. Whether it's, several trails intersecting, if it's a scrape or whatever, there's got to be some sort of focal point that made you want to put a stand at or put a stand in there. Once your stand's strategically placed for, the predominant wind in that area, you should know where your most high percentage shot's going to be, and then just trim out just enough to shoot in there. You don't have to clear out everything within 30 yards.
Yeah.
So
I like to have a lane straight out in front, a lane off to each side. I like to keep my back really thick so I have good back cover. I think that helps not get, what is it they call it, silhouetted? Skylined. Yeah, that definitely helps.
I can't say I've ever been skylined like that. That I know for sure. Like I don't. I've been winded. I know 100% I've been winded, but I've never had like a perfect wind and a deer look up at me and take off. Like I've never had that happen. So I don't know if maybe that's like Tom said, the way we set up our stands, we've never been skylined.
Yeah.
But one, we don't hunt very high, so we're not in that. Because a lot of people say like the higher you go, the easier it is to get skylined because you don't have anything behind you.
Yeah.
So maybe that has something to do with it, but I don't think I've ever been skylined. So maybe keeping
I've definitely
that
been caught moving.
Yeah, but that's not skyline.
Yeah.
Skyline would basically be that like they saw a obvious human figure in a tree, basically because they had no cover up there, and you like broke up the skyline.
Yeah, that's never happened to me. The only time deer have been spooked that didn't wind me was because I didn't see them and I turned and then saw them and they saw me turn.
I've done that.
Then you lock eyes and stand there for a second. You're like, oh no.
I think the
worst,
worst for me was I was in a stand that we hadn't been in a long time, and there was like a ton of shit all over the stand. Like it was in an area where there was a lot of dead trees, and there was like shit on the platform and everything. And I was in the stand, and I was sitting down, and I was like, instead of just like leaning in between my legs and grabbing the last stick and throwing it off the platform, I was like trying to kick it off with my foot. And it was like on one of those like expanded metal platforms. And I'm like kicking it with the stand, like with my foot, trying to get the stick off of it. And then like I hear like crunch, 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 like taking off, and I look over, and it was, I don't know how big of a bucket. It definitely had a rack, but nothing that was like spectacular, but it could have been something I was going to shoot. Taking off in the other direction. I know that deer was probably on his way through, and I'm up there like an idiot just kicking it. So movement's definitely gotten me before.
Yeah.
And it's tough to sit still for 6 hours. You're going to fidget.
Yeah.
And that's where I was actually, what I went with my lock on over a saddle. I feel like I sit still a lot better in a platform than I do my saddle, because a saddle, you're on a pivot point the entire time, and it's so easy to fidget.
Yeah, I believe it.
That's why I think comfort's big. Like my Summit, I can sit in my Summit all day long.
Yeah, I find like in climbers, I've never owned a Summit. I don't even think I've ever hunted out of a Summit, but I had like a cheap knockoff, like probably, it was probably like don't even know what brand that thing was.
Great value.
Something.
Great value.
Yeah, wish.com. And it was pretty comfortable. And I remember, like, I didn't ever have to, like, stand up to, like, relieve pressure off my butt or anything. Like, in a lock-on, you know, I like to sit most of the time, but every once in a while you just have to stand because your back hurts, your butt hurts. And in those climbers, I sit all day long. Don't even have to do, unless I have to pee.
Mm-hmm. Well, you sit when you pee, don't you?
Yeah. Cut a hole in the bottom of the seat and just go. But that's the end for, I guess that's trimming stands. What else do we got planned for firewood? That's another one.
I think Frank said he's on that.
So we're going to get one more tree down.
Well, I was going to do more that day that I was there cutting wood, and you told me not to. You said that's way more.
Yeah, we reassessed.
Way more than we need.
We're going to need more.
It didn't split as big as I thought it was going to.
Yeah, Tom thought there would be more wood there when you were done splitting it. I don't know. Either way, we're going to get, so our cabin, as if you guys have been listening for a while, know that it's off the grid cabin. There's no heat, no electric. Well, there is heat, but you got to burn a fire for it.
Yeah.
So we heat solely with wood, and boy, does it get warm, but we need to have the wood to do it. So that's going to be another part of our work weekend, is making sure we got enough firewood.
That's about all we got going
that's really
on.
it for the big weekend. You know, I'm getting so pumped for archery season, and this last work weekend is getting me even more excited.
The home stretch.
Counting down the days. I'm finally starting to put my pack together.
Start shooting the bow.
Yeah, I've been shooting actually quite a bit still, but like right now I'm still trying to put everything together, like get my my mobile setup all tweaked the way I want to, and I put some new paracord loops on my lock-on because I'm going to run some different sticks where I want longer, or I need an extra loop. But anyways, just I'm in the tinker stage, like getting everything set, ready to go for the season, and boy, am I getting excited.
Yeah, me too.
So thanks again, guys, for meeting up with us every Wednesday for the past.
Well, we're on Wednesday.
Yeah,
they're
I was
with
thinking
us
you
on-
guys. I was going to get to thanking them. Yeah. I mean, you got to think it's a grind. I mean,
It is.
I'm sure once hunting season comes, we're probably not going to be doing it every Wednesday. It's going to have to be, as
Whenever,
it happens.
yeah.
Because we're deer hunters first, podcasters second. I can tell you we'll get one out one a week. We just might not record it on Wednesday. But it's not going to be any different for you. You're going to listen to it Monday morning anyway.
Yeah.
So I really hope to have Deer Camp series every single week. And if any of the listeners, if you guys kill bucks,
Doesn't matter what state you're
does,
in.
I don't care what state you're in, we'll get you on. We'll set you up for one of the weeks. And you know what? If we get so many, maybe we'll do a couple a week. I don't know.
That'd be wild.
Could be crazy.
Let's not get too crazy because we still got to hunt.
Yeah, I'm going to probably tag out opening weekend, but I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
I guess before we close things out, I do for our New York listeners. We just caught wind that New York has a few different areas that are open for doe season right now. Just found that
really?
out.
I didn't know
Oh, not right. It opens like September.
September 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. And then the other thing is New York, now you have to wear orange in rifle season.
that. Oh, yeah?
Yeah, about freaking time.
Yeah, I couldn't believe we always
We
did
always
anyway.
did, yeah, but
Yeah, I couldn't. I
and
can't
it was
believe
because
it,
it was
took that long.
always shotguns, and your range wasn't as far as long guns.
Yeah.
So, with that note, I guess stay safe out there, everybody. Get your stands ready to go. Keep shooting your bows. Get your packs together. Everything ready to rip. Get outside. That's what we do.